If you ever found yourself wondering, what would it be like if there was a mutant version of Tony Stark? Then we've got you covered. Introducing Forge, a mutant technopath, and honestly a technophile with how much he just loves his machines. Your very own mutant engineer. Not only is he a mutant, but he also has shaman powers. He is considered a high threat level by ONE, even though Nimrod might disagree. He is an inventor who doesn't break a sweat to make anything new. But how exactly does he do it? Well, let's find out together in today's episode, Forge Anatomy Explored. But before we get into our explanation, we do just have one very small request. If you like our content, then please support us by subscribing to our channel. This is just one small click for you, but for us, it means a lot. Thanks. Now, let's begin. Who is Forge? Does he have mystical powers from birth? Forge is a powerhouse in the Marvel Universe who often goes unnoticed. His birth name is unknown, but a lot of us know him as the Maker or Genesis. He is a descendant of the Cheyenne tribe, and as a youth, he was trained under the local shaman Naze. This training allowed him to be able to yield magic. He can also do astral projections, thanks to Naze's training. This training that Naze gave him was to turn Forge into a great shaman, so that he could defeat their biggest enemy, the adversary. Forge's mutant abilities started showing when he hit puberty, and his power was the intuitive genius to build and fix any machine that was given to him. This power of his clashed with the mystical powers that he had been training with for so long. This led to him having a fallout with Naze, and Forge signed up for the military. Here, owing to his mutant abilities, Forge quickly climbed to the ranks and ended up as a sergeant before being shipped off to the Vietnam War. During the war, a lot of veterans from the Vietnam War, Forge included, struggled to kill young soldiers from the Vietnam troops. That, along with the responsibility of leading his troop, really weighed Forge down. Sadly, his entire platoon got wiped away, which led to Forge reverting back to his mystical powers. Using an ancient spell and the souls of his platoon members, Forge opened a portal and summoned an army of demons. These demons helped him to win the war, but Forge was not able to control these demons. He had to call in an airstrike, which led to him losing his hand and his leg. On top of that, we later learned that the spectral gate that Forge had opened to summon these demons also became the gate via which the adversary came to Earth. Forge became very depressed and almost suicidal because of everything that had happened to him. While he struggled with his suicidal tendencies, he decided to never use his mythical powers again. Finally, Forge got his bearings together and made himself prosthetics, which marked the start of his journey as an amazing inventor and superhero. How does he get all the knowledge to make destructive weapons? Forge has something known as intuitive genius. Thanks to this power, Forge is able to, forge any machines that he can possibly think of. Forge has explained that in his head, it always starts with a problem, and then he works on it until he can solve the problem. This is the approach that he takes whenever it comes to building a machine. His ability allows him to almost visualize the mechanical energy of the machine. He can understand how each part of the machine works by visualizing the kinetic and potential energies that the part holds. This allows him to invent several weapons, modify and operate machines that are in his range, and also make perfect countermeasures for the machines. His subconscious mind works out all the logistics of the inventions that he makes. However, this ability does have a downside. Owing to how quickly his subconscious mind figures out the logistics, oftentimes we see Forge take apart something that he has built just to consciously understand where everything goes and why it works the way it does. Forge has created several futuristic things, such as cybernetic systems and enhancements, as well as holograms that are far more advanced. He also has contributed significantly to elaborate computers and fiber optic systems. This does put him on the level of some other notable inventors in the Marvel Universe, such as Reed Richards, Victor Von Doom, and of course, Tony Stark. He once created a weapon that could eliminate the entire mutant kind. Forge is a very skilled technopath, owing to the power that we just discussed. So, to say that he has built a lot of weapons in his lifetime would be accurate. Like most prolific inventors, Krakoa's resident inventor also has a particular invention that he's not entirely proud of. In the newer issues of X-Men, we learned that Orchis, which is an anti-mutant organization on the rise, are trying to awaken the Nimrod Sentinel to kill every mutant. As Nimrod Sentinel is a huge threat to the mutants, Mystique is sent to Forge to get a weapon that would allow her to destroy the Sentinel. While Forge made the weapon, which was a black hole grenade, he does talk about it as his worst invention ever. Back when Forge was working for the Defense Department, there was a threat from an alien race known as the Dire Wraiths. To neutralize them, he made the neutralizer. However, this weapon could be used against mutants as well. This neutralizer, as the name suggests, neutralized the powers of all mutants and turned them into mere humans. We get to see Storm end up without her powers because of a government agent, Henry Peter Gyrich, who tried to use the neutralizer against Rogue and ended up hitting Storm when the latter protected the young mutant. This led to Forge destroying every blueprint, every design, and every model of the neutralizer that was ever made. Can he restore the lost ability of any mutant? Forge has created a lot of things, but the one thing that he never wished to recreate ever again was the neutralizer. Building the neutralizer had a noble cause behind it. However, Forge saw the worst way that it could have been used to strip away the power of Storm. Storm and Forge had a romantic relationship, so you can imagine how upset Storm was when she learned that the neutralizer was one of Forge's creations. When she was dealing with the emotions that came from this betrayal, as well as losing her powers, the adversary took on the guise of Naze, Forge's mentor from his youth, and taught him to be a shaman and took advantage of Storm's emotions. The adversary was the sworn enemy, whom Forge was trained to defeat under real Naze's tutelage. Adversary entered the Earth using the portal that Forge had used back when he was in the Vietnam War. Realizing his mistake, Forge decided to close the portal. However, while he was doing the ritual to close the portal, Storm was manipulated by the fake Naze into believing that Forge was opening the portal because he had turned evil. The only way to stop Forge, according to the fake Naze, was to stab him through his chest. Storm interrupted Forge mid-ritual to stab him. This gave Adversary the upper hand, and he trapped them into another dimension. In this parallel Earth, Storm and Forge got into a fight, which led to them parting ways. But after a year, when Storm showed up, Forge had a surprise for her. Using all of the parts that he could from his cybernetic leg, Forge constructed a machine to correct his mistake. And with that and his cybernetic parts, he made the anti-neuralizer. He explained that the neutralizer removed the RNA coding that allowed Storm to access her powers consciously. So this new machine could reestablish that RNA coding, which they used to open the portal to escape the alternate dimension. So, while Forge can take away powers, he can definitely also bring back the powers as well, because Forge actually understands what he's making. While the process of making is a blur to him due to his intuitive genius, he knows the way his machine works. So reversing it or making a countermeasure for it was not exactly something that was difficult for him. Is he better than Iron Man because of his inventions? Comparing Iron Man to Forge would be like comparing your left hand to your right when it comes to working. You see, both of these are two individuals who are amazing inventors, and Forge was based on Tony Stark. But when we have to try to visualize a mutant Tony Stark, the mutant abilities distort the whole comparison. That is because, if we look at Tony, we know that he works on his technologies, really grinding his gears, figuring out ways to plan and make things work. This ability to go through every intricacy of the machine he designs makes Tony a very skillful inventor. Forge, on the other hand, has intuitive genius. This allows Forge to have the subconscious blueprint to solve whatever problem he's fixated on. Almost magically, he produces a machine that can solve the one particular problem completely, but he doesn't exactly know how it works on an intricate level. He knows that, in theory, this machine will solve XYZ's problem, and in practice, it does the same. But how it does that exactly is unknown to him. This is why we often see Forge take apart everything he has built in order to understand the machine better. However, these mutant abilities don't exactly discredit him as an inventor in the slightest, because he is definitely one of the most significant inventors in the Marvel Universe. For example, every X-Men fan has seen the X-Jet in the movies, but did you know that the X-Jet that we see in the movies is the one that Forge made? That's right, the most recognizable version of the Blackbird was designed and upgraded by Forge. He upgraded it with a sophisticated hologram and a portable Cerebro. This brings us to Forge's other big contribution, the Cerebro itself. The original Cerebro was enhanced by Forge to not only help telepaths reach out and connect to other mutants, but also have a backup in the Cerebro for the mutants that the telepath connected with. While Forge was the designer of the neutralizer, he also designed the Neo-Neutralizer, which was used against the Dire Wraiths when they were planning to attack Earth. If that's not all, Forge also created one of the very few time machines in the Marvel Universe. His time machine was also called Chronal Tracer. He grossly underestimated his creation, as he thought Chronal Tracer could only see different timelines and send mutants to the future. But it was because of the Chronal Tracer that X-Force was able to come home. So, all in all, Forge is definitely one of the best inventors in the Marvel Universe, albeit less skillful than the rest. Is his magic powerful enough to defeat Darkchild, the demon child from Limbo? When it comes to Darkchild, Forge's powers shine through in a different way. In this arc, we see the aftermath of the Dallas incident. After restoring Storm's powers, Forge and Storm returned to Dallas, where Adversary had created a very chaotic situation. To stop and banish Adversary forever, Forge had to do the ancient spell once again. This time, for the 9 souls required, his love Storm and the rest of the X-Men laid down their life. Forge successfully closed the portal and banished Adversary. Colossus also had to lay down his life, and as Forge's spell was broadcasted on live TV, his sister, Illyana, saw that. She teleported into Dallas and attacked Forge. Despite what her friends had to say, Illyana was sure that Forge was the one at fault and needed to be punished. That's when she dragged him into Limbo, where she is known as Darkchild. While her power takes potency from everything that surrounds her, we know that Forge's mystical powers come from his Cheyenne heritage. This power is derived from Earth itself, so defeating him was difficult for Illyana. Not only that, Illyana was was wielding her powers in rage, which made her power more chaotic, while Forge was able to skillfully use his powers to defend himself against her, as his emotions were in check despite how affected he was. When he truly understood why Darkchild was behaving the way she was, Forge let her hurt him with her soul sword, which wouldn't have happened had he consciously made that decision. This proved to us, the viewers, that if he wanted to, Forge could have easily defeated Darkchild while on Earth and in Limbo, even though she is Sorceress Supreme in Limbo. Forge's powers are far stronger, and owing to Forge's training since a young age, he is far more skillful than Ileana when it comes to magical powers. Does he have any love interest? Can he reproduce? Forge definitely has a love interest in the comics, and it's Storm. The Maker and the Wind Rider fall in love over time, and while the fact that Forge was the one who made the neutralizer that took away Storm's power was a bit hard for her to digest, their love still prevailed. We get to see their love grow even more when the adversary traps both of them in an alternate version of Earth, where they are all alone. They both admit their love for one another, and they both understand that the adversary wants to build their family on this Earth, so that would be enough to keep Forge trapped on the Earth, while adversary could wreak havoc on his home Earth, Earth 616. At one point, Forge even admitted that he didn't want to move forward, and simply wanted to go back to his house, take Storm to bed, and be with her. He admitted that he wanted to be happy with her, and while the Sentinels were real and reciprocated, they knew that the right thing to do would be to leave Earth 616 and banish the adversary. While their romance was long-lasting, they never got married. When Blink, also known as Clarice, survived the confrontation with the Harvest, she gained the powers of the In-Betweener, so she started messing around with the timelines a bit more than she should have, by fixing the tragedies and averting crises. One of her ending the tragedy moments was for her to draw a timeline wherein Earth 957, Storm and Forge were happily married with a son. This happiness didn't last too long, however, because soon Blink had to undo everything she had done, leading to this child never existing, breaking the hearts of fans, and even ours, in the process. Is he immortal? While our Technopath can certainly build several things that can protect him from death for a very long time, Forge, however, is not immortal. We get to see Forge's untimely death in the 27th issue of X-Force, which left fans shocked. In this issue, we see Forge going to Cradle 4 to investigate something. As the Cerebro helmet kept there randomly went offline without seemingly any malfunction, the Technopath was sent to fix it. However, when Forge went to the chamber where the Cerebro helmet was kept, he found it empty. Right when he was about to leave, he got attacked by red tentacles. When Black Tom Cassidy came to respond to a call for help via plant life, he found an ominous Cerebro that was glowing red instead of blue and attached very tightly to Forge's head. Black Tom Cassidy ran to get help, and when he returned with Wolverine, Kid Omega, and Domino, they found Forge's dead body. The top half of his head was gone. Laying in a pool of blood, Forge's head was completely empty because it seemed like someone had scooped out his brain with a hot spoon. As the story took place in Krakoa, where resurrection is an option, fans are hopeful that the next issues in the series will bring back Forge, but the sudden death was certainly something that the fans needed in order to understand the extent of the danger that Cerebrax, the Sentinel Cerebro, poses. Marvelous verdict. Forge may be an underrated character, but his powers and his inventions have definitely left a mark in the whole X-Men series. He has shaped the character arc of so many characters by his presence alone, and he deserves to be hyped up a lot more. What are your thoughts on Forge? Let us know in the comment section below, and if you enjoyed today's episode, don't forget to leave us a like and subscribe if you haven't already. Until next time, have a good one and be safe.